All right, good morning, Sydney. Well, first off, thanks for signing up for the Patreon. Uh, that means a lot. Hopefully, this feedback will be a little bit constructive. I would definitely like to go over some of the drawing stuff, like individually, but right now, I'm just going to tell you the kind of a holistic overview of what I think about what you're doing and what I think works and what I think could use a little work. Also, I would love to set up that Skype call too. We'll do it next week sometime. I'll write you after this weekend. I got some deadlines to hit, and then we'll go over everything. So yeah, we'll start out with this. What I'm really liking about your style is how you're cartooning everything out of your head. When I think it looks the strongest is when you start doing some solid shapes with some rubbery shapes. And you can really tell when your shapes look stronger, like here with some of this one-directional feathering out of it. And this cartooning is obviously really great. This acting here, where just like you're kind of realizing that if you just own your style, you can really get away with even the proportions being a little wrong feel right because they're exaggerated and gestured. The big feet, those clearly big feet for that head, but it kind of looks right because of how playful the cartooning is. So yeah, that's the parts I think are really strong. When I look at this stuff, especially when it gets a little dirty like this, it reminded me of a few different guys. Solid, because the blacks create such a solid shape. Here, I think like the structure is probably too wobbly for what you're doing, and it feels like a little. I can tell it's like a Sam Keith type thing, but I really like it when the structure is a little tighter. Here we have clearly a depth issue, like a perspective issue, and I think that's the main thing. When you get good in perspective in your panels, you really start going. The work just takes a really high-end professional level. Like this right here is great cartooning. This right here, the cartooning is great, the acting is great. But when you pair that, like these backgrounds feel a little soft, a little empty, right? Compared to like we get later in the issue. Especially later when they're in that hospital bed. I just think I'm trying to get sidetracked by passing up some of this good stuff. Like that right there. Look how solid that cartooning is, and that little bit of spot black in there with it. I'm not a big spot black guy, but I know when it's good, and this is looking really good here. If you can get the backgrounds a little tighter, and I can help you with all of that, I think you'll do a big jump in your art. An example I was going to show you. Again, let's get past all this stuff. And this is probably as far as the most professional stuff goes, all the cartooning is really fun and really strong. But once you click that into stuff like this, man, this is incredible. This might be the best drawing bit, right? This hand looks great. The gesture looks great. Even the mark making flows into the cartooning. And I think that's an important thing that you can't really teach. You're really just viscerally drawing, and I think that's really good. But when you actually put that against, and you've done so much work on this book, which is a good thing, by the way. When your backgrounds, like this background here is really tight, clearly the perspective lines are tighter than they've been before. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe it feels like it's too long, but this does look really solid compared to some of those earlier ones. This right here, incredibly solid compared to some of those earlier ones. I do think this is where your work is taking a very professional look. When it's getting a little more structured. There's things like this where your line weight on some of the foreground stuff you can really push, because you feel like this feels kind of dainty compared to everything else. You can make this literally this line 5 or 6 times as thick easily, and it would look just fine. So yeah, that's my general thing. When I was looking at this, the artist that came to mind, and I always try to show people that, obviously Sam Keith is a guy. There's another young guy that's working in this kind of style, where it's a little bit gritty. His name is Ryan Lee. You might see him online. He's a pretty new guy. Let me see if I can find some of this stuff here. I pulled everything up for you. Yeah, so here's one of his pages. But he's kind of got that gritty, scratchy thing going. But his forms are pretty good. But again, his perspective is a little off here too. Ryan is a guy I know, but if he could get his perspective a little tighter here, it would be, the whole drawing would be better. And I can show you how to do that with any one individual thing. And if I can. Usually when I do an overdraw for somebody, it's kind of a holistic approach to perspective, so it'll be a good way to show you. This is another Ryan Lee thing here, but again, he's a guy that's really just having fun with a lot of his stuff, a lot of his pages. Sometimes his pages, kind of like yours too, where the structures get so wobbly that things get a little pinched looking. But it's still really cool and really cartoon. So he's a newer, modern guy that's doing something similar. A person that is, sorry about that, I got a guest over in there laughing in the background. So this guy here, Mike McCone, or McCaon, or McMahon, I never know how to say his name, but he does the thing where he does really solid geometric spot blacks, and that really reminded me of the solid blacks with the one directional feather coming out on your pages. Let me see if I can find where your pages were. Yeah, so that when you get a little geometric with your shapes and then you put the cartooning really rubbery next to it, it really reminded me of Mike. I've heard people call him Mick too, so I just bastardized that guy's name. But like when you get geometric like that, there's something about it that is the structure that I really like. So we'll go to some of his stuff. Here's some of his stuff here, but he'll still have fun with the cartooning. Like if you look here at, this figure is still very much cartooned, but then he'll be a little rigid sometimes with some of the background stuff, a little tighter. And I think this is him earlier. And over the years, he's gotten a little more, a little more stiff. You can see like this, doesn't really have the character animation that I think me and you probably appreciate, but that solid black and that structure does give it an overall holistic, very professional feel. And I think that's what probably you need to look at. Here's another one the same way. Now he's thinking about the shapes and he's still cartooning, but there's a rigidness to the blacks, almost like a Mike Mignola thing that he does where the blacks look fun and they're kind of geometric. And I'm not saying you should do that with all of your figures necessarily, but when you have that feel to your backgrounds, your stuff really starts shining, I think. The last guy I was going to show you, and this guy's really cool. He does really organic stuff. His name is Matthew Allison, and he does a book called Calamity of Challenge. And he's another guy that needs to work on backgrounds. He frequently doesn't draw them in his pages, but he's very organic when he draws, kind of like your stuff. But I love when he does the spot blacks that are really raw, just really thick, and then the one-directional feathering coming out of it is kind of a cool thing. Here's an example here. But I love when he puts solid blacks down and then he does that raw one-directional feathering again. And I do think that's something that when you do it in your work, if you stop with some of the cartooning individually, so stuff like this is a good storytelling and it's funny and stuff, but like all that structure could be a little tighter. I do think you understand about owning your own style and being yourself, which I think is a hard thing for me, I'm just now getting there in my own career, where I'm just owning it and trying to be honest. But like this here, like you're getting the Sam Keith stuff, you're getting the powerful cartooning. If you had this in an environment that was a little better established, it would push it into a really interesting professional level, I think, overall. So yeah, that's my thoughts overall. I got to hit some deadlines this weekend, but I will... I think for sure we have to address perspective, because it's just like it's close. You're kind of gesturing it on like you've done everything else, but I think you can learn it and then maybe throw it out. But I think sitting look at the structure on this is what I mean with the solid blacks. Like that just feels a lot stronger, This out of it for whatever reason, and then of course the exaggerated cartooning, the forearm muscles, the hands. What I love is that you're moving all that around. And you're like, I would rather see this than someone who's been working off of SketchUp models. This shows me that you can lay down your clay. I always think about drawing like building, but you're able to put those pieces down and do that. So here's some of that one-directional feathering, but I wish the structure was stronger. Like if you drew a line down his body, like that side's a lot thinner than that. It just takes a little more care. And I don't know when you've drawn everything because there's so many pages. You've clearly gotten better on other ones. I don't know if you did them in order or not. But overall, I think it's really cool, dude. It's really interesting. I think we got to get a little bit tighter. Like I love this stuff here. It really reminds me of that Matthew Allison guy when he gets rubbery. So when we just need to work on the perspective, because when you get the perspective pretty close, it all starts looking a little bit better. And then clearly the progress is good too, is what I like seeing as well. So yeah, we will get together on sometime next week. I'll write you back. And you can tell me if you think this review sucks or whatever. It's fine. I'm willing to take criticism back too. So let's schedule it next week and we can talk about stuff. And I can break any one drawing down and show you how I would handle the perspective on anything. And I'll shoot a video while I do it, so that way you can work through the process or see my thought process as I go through it. So yeah, man, thanks for submitting this stuff, and thanks again for supporting the Patreon. If you have any questions, message me, and if you want to go over anything specifically in the Skype chat, message me before we schedule it next week. All right, dude, thanks again. Or let me see if I got anything else for you. I think I pulled some more stuff up here. Yeah, just more spot blacks, more of the organic weird stuff. Yeah, it's another one of his pages where he gets a lot of spot blacks, but he always kind of avoids the background sometimes. I wish he would do it because he's already doing really professional level nuanced cartooning stuff. But I think he'd be a really popular guy. If not, oh, that's our emails. All right, man. Thanks again. And if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.